Now, there are two genres of movies I really enjoy, Universe, and those being superhero movies and horror films. However, while we have had them in the past, a lot of them haven't been good. I mean, even Blade was more action than it was horror, even though it was kind of pitched that way. The only real superhero movie we've had prior to Brightburn and New Mutants, whenever that comes out, is Man-Thing. And Man-Thing was certainly a thing. So yeah, realistically, the superhero horror genre is an uncharted waters. But the more we hear about it, the more, of course, with New Mutants and the original superhero horror film Brightburn, we seem to be moving superhero films into a new uncharted waters. Those being mixing horror with heroes. Now, admittedly, Venom was supposed to be that, but man, did Sony lie to us on that, and I still don't have a lot of faith in Morbius the Living Vampire. That's still a thing, by the way, being the same, of like, oh, it's a dark and superhero horror film. I'm like, yeah, that's what you pitched Venom as, Sony, and I didn't get that. None of us got that. But today, what's also interesting to note is that today, and keep in mind, this is more grain of salt than DC has been for a while, with their past news, but apparently DC is in the works of doing an Aquaman spin-off of The Trench, the fish humans from the Aquaman film. Of course, they first appeared in the start of Geoff Johns' run of Aquaman during New 52. So, yeah, The Trench are supposedly getting a spin-off movie as a straight-up horror film that's set in the DC universe. Okay, again, keep in mind that nothing official has been stated. It's all just been, hey, this writer's been tapped to do this project. We don't. That's the thing, is that while DC seems to be stepping up their game now that Aquaman's a big success, and they're really banking on Shazam to be as well as the Joaquin Phoenix Joker film, keep in mind that they still got, they're still crawling. They're still working out the kinks after, not really having a strong release right out the gate. So keep that in mind. Now, the other thing we have to mention is that I think this is cool. I think it's cool that we're doing something in a DC universe and focusing on creatures that are horror. I mean, that whole sequence with Mera and Aquaman facing off with the Trench is really cool. I really enjoy it. That's straight, because James Wan is specifically known to be a horror director. So, yeah, that whole sequence does come off as a horror film. And the Trench, admittedly, do give themselves to be horror characters. Now, let's get into the main meat of this conversation. Is horror films the new future of superhero films? Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that every superhero movie needs to be a horror film. But there is a place for certain characters to be in horror. Remember, Marvel really got their start, got a major boost, I should say, during the 70s and late 80s, the late 60s, early 70s, and onward through the 70s, of doing a lot of horror-centric stuff, because they could get away with that without the Comics Code getting mad at them with monsters and stuff. That's how we got Ghost Rider. That's how we got Tomb of Dracula. That's how we got Werewolf by Night. That's how we got a lot of their comics, because they started out with a lot of horror stuff. That's also how we got Blade and Damien Hellstorm. And on DC's side, DC had the House of Mystery and the House of Secrets. This is also where we got several characters like Blue Devil and such. Well, admittedly, there was a Blue Devil before the demonic one, but that was another Earth, so yeah. But I digress. So let me be clear. I don't want every superhero movie from here on out to be a horror film. Having said that, though, I wouldn't mind having horror elements in my superhero films. You see, the point of if superhero movies are to survive, as they need to change. They need to grow and change as films. That's a big driving force. If you want to stay relevant in, the basic moviegoer's eyes and not be the same thing over and over again, you have to grow and evolve. The MCU does that from time to time, but they do push boundaries in their films, but it's usually the same film over again. But we do get movies I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, look at Infinity War, and look how well that did as a deep superhero drama. The same, I'm pretty sure, can be said for Endgame. Winter Soldier was a political intrigue film. There were several other films that dude kind of pushed the genre. And over at Fox Marvel side, you had Deadpool as an R-rated action comedy, and Logan as almost like a superhero western. So yeah. Now, and again, they were going to push the boundaries with New Mutants with superhero horror. But God knows when we're going to see that, right? That project could easily be gone. I don't even think it is, I don't even think it'll be released at this point. I'd be shocked if we got an official announcement saying, hey, it's going to be in theaters, or hey, it's even going to be on Hulu. I would be shocked if we even got to see it at this point. But yeah, but with with New Mutants up in the air, Brightburn is our first official superhero horror film. But again, I have to stress that this isn't like the first one, and we don't know if it'll be successful or not. I'm hoping it'll be successful, but the big thing you have to look at is that Brightburn really might open the door to more maybe they'll change. If Brightburn does exceptionally well, maybe the Morbius film will be actually what they promised to be. Remember, they said the same thing of making Venom a dark horror film. We didn't get that. Spawn is supposed to be a dark superhero horror film, which I can see, but again, it's Todd McFarlane who just talks shit. So I won't believe anything until I see a trailer. So, I don't believe anything that man says. I've learned not to believe a single word that man says until I see a goddamn trailer. So, I digress. Anywho, that's, horror and superheroes do go hand in hand. A lot of people think, oh, it's like mixing ice cream with sushi, it shouldn't work. Honestly, though, we do have our fair share of superhero horror films. I mean, even the Constantine film wasn't great. Was trying to go for a more horror aspect. I forgot to mention Constantine, because I tend to forget that movie. Sorry, Keanu Reeves, you're way better as John Wick than you are a British man. So, just saying. Anyway, but the point being is that horror films and superhero films can easily go hand in hand. It's not as alien as you think. It's not an alien concept as you think. But I don't want every superhero movie to be a horror film. I don't want every horror film to be a superhero movie. I want perfect balance. The Trench, if it goes through, again, DC kind of talks these days, but these days it seems like a lot of stuff is official. We'll see where the Trench goes. I'm pretty sure, I guarantee you, they're waiting to see how Brightburn does first. They're going to wait to see how Brightburn does, and then they're really going to hit the gas on this Trench project. You mark my words on that. But still, you have to look at it that, there are tons of characters on both Marvel and DC side that can really play with the horror stuff. Even the Hellboy movie, the upcoming Hellboy movie, might delve into the horror stuff that it was meant to be. I mean, Neil Marshall even said they want to go creepier, although that trailer, maybe a second trailer will be more palatable. Which I'm surprised we haven't gotten a second trailer yet. That movie comes out in 2.5 months now? Maybe we'll get something in March. Anywho. But yeah, the idea of superhero horror films is a really cool one, and there's tons of characters you can really play with. Again, you can really play with, on the DC side, you've got Zatanna, you've got Etrigan, you've got Blue Devil, you've got, if you want to do more horror stuff with monsters, I would say do House of Secrets, or maybe you could get away with doing a Batman as a horror film. You can honestly get away with doing Batman as a horror film, or you could do one of his villains as a solo Scarecrow movie. Yeah, a solo Scarecrow movie could be a straight-up horror film. That would totally work. And I'll give DC this. I will give the DC films credit on this ground. They're being really experimental. After their past few debacles, they have been, experimental. Remember, they got bragging rights to having the first female superhero film out there and have it be successful. Plus, they also did the first, technically supervillain film. So they got it didn't go so well, but hey, now you've got James Gunn directing the second film. So, I don't know, take that as you will. But yeah, there's so many characters, and even on Marvel's side, Marvel still has, they could do Ghost Rider, they can do Hellstorm, with Endgame really being a game changer, it would be really interesting to see this kind of aspects, and it seems like the more and more Disney and Marvel want to really push the boundaries in some of their stuff now. Post-Endgame, it seems like they really want to step up their own game and make something new of it. So this is an interesting subject, really. So let me pose this question to you guys out there in the universe. What do you guys think of the idea of future films, some possible superhero films, having a horror element to them? Do you guys like that idea? Do you guys not like that idea? Would you guys prefer just as horror films, or superhero films just as superhero films? And if you do like the idea of superhero horror films, what kind of characters would you want to see done in that way? Just comment below, let us know. And if you're new here, remember to Hulk smash that subscribe button and be a part of Earth's Mightiest Subscribers. I'm DPZ, and we will see you right here once more in the universe.